This is Valmiki Ramayan, Season 7, Episode 4, The Setu. The Vanar army had camped at the southern seashore. They had to now cross the great ocean to get to Lanka. It looked like an impossible challenge. Sugriv then turned to their newfound ally, Vibhishan, and asked, "How can this Vanar Sena cross the ocean?" Vibhishan replied, "Samudram Raghavo Raja Sharanam Gantumarhati. Ram must seek refuge in the ocean." To this, Sugriv and Lakshman remarked, "Alankalatyayam kritva sagaroyan niyujyatam." Yes, indeed. Without any delay, we must get the ocean on our side.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that they had to incorporate the sea, its coastline, currents, and underwater contours into their planning. They had to take advantage of its features. Valmiki's description of what Ram did next is very poetic. Let's look first at the embellished story, Kathayuktam. Valmiki says, Ram folded his hands as a mark of respect to the ocean and lay down gazing at its waters. He remained ever watchful for 3 days and 3 nights. Even then, the ocean did not reveal itself. Ram then bent his great bow and strung it. The thundering twang of the bow resonated in all directions, and he fired off a volley of arrows. The arrows struck the ocean like thunderbolts. Its waters rose in great stormy waves. And then the Lord of the ocean appeared and said, "O Ram, I will now tell you how to go across, and I promise to support your efforts as best as I can." The essence of this story, Purvavrittam, is this. Ram observed the ocean continuously for 3 days, watching the tides, currents, and sandbanks. Remember, in Season 6, Episode 1, Hanuman had rested on one such sandbank that had appeared in the middle of the sea during low tide. Ram worked extremely hard to determine where the sea was shallow, the currents and tide movements favorable, and the distance to the other side minimal. With the site selection over, it was now time to build the actual structure, the Setu. And to build this Setu, Ram appointed Nala, the greatest construction expert among the Vanaras. The basic idea of the structure was quite simple. They would fill up the shallowest parts of the sea with rocks and logs of wood. The Setu was an embankment or a bund, not a bridge. Although the idea was simple, the scale of this civil engineering project was staggering. Think about it. Standing on the seashore, the Vanaras were staring at the expanse of the ocean all the way to the horizon and beyond. The distance was so great that Ravan was sure no army could cross over. And now they were simply going to fill up the sea and walk across. Nal said confidently, "Samarthashchapyaham setum kartum varunalaye." I am capable of building this Setu across the ocean. And then, Tato visrishta ramena sarvato haripungavah utpetatur maharanyam hrishta shatasahasrashah. Hundreds of thousands of Vanaras under Ram's direction sprang into action and went into the forest. They cut rocks and trees and brought them to the seashore. And thus they started filling up the sea. Sagaram samapurayan. The Vanaras worked very methodically. They brought the giant boulders up to the sea using various devices, yantraihi. They brought logs of trees of different sizes. Some Vanaras worked on getting all this material. Others used ropes to bind everything together, while some made measurements using wooden staffs. The boulders crashed into the sea, tossing the frothy seawater high into the sky. Amid the din of all the activity, the Setu started taking shape. Kritani prathame na yojanani chaturdasha. On the first day, they built the Setu to a length of 14 yojanas. On the second day, they picked up speed and covered 20 yojanas. And then, working tirelessly, they built 21, 22 and 23 yojanas of the Setu on the third, fourth and fifth days respectively. And thus, they completed the entire distance of 100 yojanas to Lanka. Valmiki says that the structure was huge and properly constructed. Vishalah Sukritah. The Setu was simply astonishing, beyond conception. Adbhutam Achintyam. Sanalena Kritas Setu Sagare Makaralaye Shushubhe Subhagashriman Swati Patha Ivambare. The glorious Setu built by Nal stretched across the sea and looked glorious, like the path of the Swati Nakshatra in the night sky.
I had heard that to build the Ram Setu, the Vanaras etched Ram's name on each rock, and then the rocks floated on the water.
That is not how Valmiki has described it. The famous story of the floating rocks was added in later retellings. It conveys the idea that the Vanarami was inspired by Ram in every single action. Also, in the Valmiki Ramayan, the name of the Setu is not Ram Setu, but Nala Setu. It was named after its chief engineer. And on this Nala Setu, millions of Vanaras started marching across jubilantly. Ghoshena mahata ghosham sagarasya samuchritam bhimamantardadhe bhima taranti harivahini. The roar of the Vanaras drowned out the roar of the sea. And thus the Vanarami crossed over to Lanka. Iti ha asa. That is how it happened.